Mr. Mohinder here to take you through another lesson on S.E.A. time. Before we begin today's lesson, just a reminder to visit our School Learning Management System or SLMS at learn.moe.gov.tt for today's program as well as other resources to help you get prepared for S.E.A. Please be sure to follow us as well on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for all the official updates from the Ministry of Education. In today's lesson, we're once again going to focus on improving your comprehension skills. Remember, in section 2 of the English Language Arts paper, you would be tested on a non-fiction or fiction test, which would contain 10 items, poetry analysis, 10 items, and graphic analysis, 5 items. We are going to focus today on answering questions based on a graphic text. For those of you who joined me for an earlier lesson, you would remember that graphic texts present ideas and information with the help of graphic or visual features. These would include posters, maps, tickets, or even this line graph. These 5 questions assess your ability to understand the message in a graphic text, explain why you think the author created the graphic text, and to evaluate the techniques the writer uses in the graphic text. These would be related to the elements of design. You would have studied these techniques in your media and information literacy classes as part of your preparation for S.E.A. While we're analyzing our graphic, these are some things that I want you to pay attention to. Pay attention to the use of images, bold, underline, or italic text, different font size or writing styles the author would use to create the graphic text, the use of colors and space in the creation of the graphic text. All of these elements of design put together would help to create a graphic text that has a long-lasting visual impact on someone who is looking at it. Our 5 questions based on the graphic text are at 3 levels. These would be the literal, which would be 2 questions or 40%, or inferential questions, 2 questions or 40% of the total mark in this section, and or evaluation appreciation questions, which would be 1 question or a total of 20% of the marks in this section. Remember, for a graphic text, a total of 10 marks is allotted to this section. Let's have a look at what you would be required to do when answering each of these different types of questions. For our literal questions, these require your ability to retrieve information explicitly presented in the graphic text. Questions can be answered directly from the graphic text. What does this mean? It simply means that the information for these questions, the literal questions, are stated explicitly, or they can be found by looking at the text. So, in order to answer these questions, you need to examine your text carefully and look for the information which you are required to provide. Our next type of question would be our inferential questions. With these, you are required to make connections between your real-life experiences and the information presented in the graphic in order to write your responses to them. So, these questions, they deal with your experiences. So, based on your experience, you will be required to come up with a response to inferential questions based on the graphic text. The answers are in the text, but they are not stated explicitly. You can produce these answers, however, by using the clues in the text together with your own knowledge and experience. So, you use what you know together with things that you would have seen in the graphic text to come up or to formulate an answer to an inferential question that you are asked based on the graphic text. And lastly, we have our evaluation appreciation questions. If you remember correctly, we have one evaluation appreciation question, and this would be the highest level or the highest order of questions based on the graphic text. For these, You are required to analyze the elements of design and or critically analyze the text to be able to generate an answer. Examples of questions like these would be, what can you do to make the image more impactful? If the words in bold were removed, how might this impact the message? What do these types of questions do? Well, to answer these questions, you need to think about the graphic text and write your responses based on your assessment of it. So let's go back. What can you do to make the image more impactful? So here you are asked to think about what can you do to make the image on the graphic text have a greater impact on the reader. So an example of an answer to this question might be putting a border around it, or by using darker colors or bold colors in the image. If the words in bold were removed, how might this impact the message? Well, again, you need to think about the graphic text and write your responses based on your assessment of it. So sometimes words would be in bold in the graphic text because the author of the text wants these words to stand out or to jump out at you. So if the words are no longer in bold, then they would no longer stand out or jump out at the reader. So they would not have an impact or the impact that the author would have wanted. So by taking the words out from bold and having them in normal font, it would not create that impact that the author would have wanted to create by having them bolder. So you need to think carefully about your responses to these questions. You need to draw on your knowledge of the media and information literacy strand of the English language arts syllabus and come up with your answer to these types of questions based on the graphic text. The evaluation appreciation questions, these allow you to provide an answer based on your emotional response to the text. What do you appreciate or do not appreciate about how it is crafted? So here you get to say what are the things you like or don't like about the text that is presented. Perhaps while looking at the text, it might be a flowchart of a recipe, the recipe for cocoa production found in our specimen learning materials on our SLMS. So you might think that the flowchart is easy to use and it is easy to follow. Or you might think that the flowchart is difficult and it leaves out important information such as the exact quantities of materials that is needed to produce chocolate. So you get to say what are the things that you like or don't like about the graphic text. So I hope that you have been paying attention so far. It's time for a review, and I'm not going to do the reviews like we always do. Today's review is going to be in the form of a quiz. So let's have a look at the questions. So you're going to tell me whether these statements are true or false based on all that I've said so far. Our first question, a graphic text is produced by words only. I'll read the question again. A graphic text is produced using words. Is that true or is that false? I'm pretty sure you know the answer already. This statement is false. This is not true. If you remember, at the beginning of the lesson, I told you that a graphic text is produced using graphics alone or graphics and words. So the statement, a graphic text is produced by using words only, is false. This is not correct. A graphic text is produced by using graphics alone or graphics and words. Let's have a look at our next statement. The answers to literal questions are always found in the text. I'll read that again for you. The answers to literal questions are always found in the text. So if you recall, earlier in this lesson, I told you that the answers to literal questions are explicitly stated in the text. That is, the information is right there. Simply by looking at the graphic text, you would get your answers to the literal questions. So that means that this statement, the answers to literal questions are always found in the text, is true. Excellent. Let's have a look at our next statement. you can use your knowledge and experience to answer inferential questions. I'll read that again. You can use your knowledge and experience to answer inferential questions. So, inferential questions, these are the types of questions that ask you to infer or to make a judgment based on what you would have read together with what you know. So you use your knowledge together what you see or what is presented in the text to come up with an answer to this type of questions. So that means that this statement, you can use your knowledge and experience to answer inferential question, is true. Evaluation appreciation questions may require you to respond critically to what you like or dislike about the graphic. I'll read it again. Evaluation appreciation questions may require you to respond critically to what you like or dislike about the graphic. So again, remember earlier in our lesson, I told you that for the evaluation appreciation questions, you are required to critically examine the elements of design. The use of colors, the use of images, different font styles, the use of spacing in the text. All of these would contribute to the overall impact and appearance of the text. So, because of how these are presented, you might like or dislike something about it. But you must be able to justify your response as well. But our statement, evaluation appreciation questions, may require you to respond critically to what you like or dislike about the graphic, is true. So that brings us to the end of our review. Let's read these statements again and the answers. A graphic text is produced using words only. This statement we saw was false. A graphic text is produced by using graphics alone or graphics and words. The answers to literal questions are always found in the text. This statement is true. You can use your knowledge and experience to answer inferential questions. And again, this statement was true because to answer inferential questions, you need to make connections between what you know and what you would have read or seen to come up with your answer. And our last statement, evaluation appreciation questions, may require you to respond critically to what you like or dislike about the graphic. This statement was again true. So stay tuned. When we come back after the short break, we're going to continue with today's lesson by taking a look at a graphic text and answering some questions based on this graphic. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with me. Remember, in today's lesson, practiced in S.E.A. English Language Arts, we're analyzing graphic text. Before we went to the commercial, I told you that we're going to have a look at a graphic text and answer some questions based on this text when we return from the break. So let's go straight into it. Let's examine a ticket for a cricket match. You can find this sample in the English Language Arts specimen items for S.E.A. on page 106. Please be sure to visit our SLMS or the ministry's website, moe.gov.tt, and have a look at this item as well as all the questions that are presented based on it in our specimen items. So let's go straight into it. Let's take a look at the ticket. So, as we can see on the screen, it's a ticket for a T20 match. It says, admit one 12 years and older T20 cricket tournament, West Indies versus England. Date, 5th June 2015. Start time, 10 a.m. venue, Queen's Park Oval, Trinidad. Box office opens 1st June 2015. Gates open at 8:30 a.m. Be there early, avoid the long lines. Guest players include Brian Lara and Darren Ganga. Cost $500 TT, VIP stand, refreshments inclusive. Cross on the other side of the graphic, T20 cricket tournament, West Indies versus England, 5th June 2015, VIP ticket, keep safely, please retain stub. And along the middle of the ticket, we see a perforated section with the words detach here written in it. So let's take another look at the graphic. This time, I want you to look closely and look out for those elements of design that I spoke about earlier in the lesson. You're going to look for things like the font sizes, the images used on the text, and other text features that are presented in the graphic. So let's have a look at our graphic again. And remember, this time we're examining the graphic closely and we're looking at the elements of design on the graphic. So let's look closely. Admit 1, 12 years and older. If we look, we see that this bit of information is written in capital bold letters above the text. So the author most likely did this because he wanted the information to stand out or to jump out at us. What does he want to stand out? The fact that with this ticket we're going to admit one person who is 12 years and older. The text continues and we see T20 cricket tournament, and after that West Indies versus England is presented to us in a border. Again, a border is another feature that is used to highlight information. So the information being highlighted here would be that the two teams that are playing in the competition would be the West Indies versus England. Then we have the other information that is presented, such as the date, the start time, the venue. We're also told that the box office, or where tickets would be sold, will be open from the 1st June. We're given some additional information. Gates open at 8:30 a.m. Be there early, avoid the long lines to get in. Our next bit of information that we are given would be guest players on the day would be Brian Lara and Darren Ganga. The cost of our ticket is $500 TT, and this would be for the VIP stand, refreshments inclusive. Why would the author want to include information about guest players on the day? Well, for those of you who are cricket fans like I am, you would know that Sir Brian Charles Lara is probably one of the greatest cricket players that would have come from Trinidad and Tobago, would have risen through our national team and would have played for the regional team, the West Indies, and would have toured all over the world, and he holds some records in playing cricket. Sir Darren Ganga is another one of our national players who would have risen to represent the region, our regional team, the West Indies, in cricket tournaments as well. So information that these two persons would be there on the day is presented to entice persons or to encourage them to buy the tickets. That's why this information was included in the ticket itself. And of course, we see that the cost of the tickets is $500, and this is for a VIP stand. It's a special place because when you pay for a ticket here, you're going to get refreshments along with the opportunity to view the game. If we look at the bottom of this section of the ticket, we see we have a wicket keeper and a batsman, and the batsman has just been bowled out because the stumps are off and his bat is in the air. He's mid-swing. Across on the other side of the stub, T20 cricket tournament, West Indies versus England, 5th June VIP ticket. So we have the information that is presented in the main part of the ticket being summarized here now on the stub. So the information that is presented on the main part again is summarized on the stub, because we are simply told T20 cricket tournament, West Indies versus England, 5th June, VIP ticket. VIP ticket, of course, is in bold capital letters because the author of the text wants this to stand out to us, or he wants to highlight this to us. And we see the image of a cricket bat and the wickets and the ball there representing the game of cricket as well. So both images represent the game of cricket. The author of the text would have chosen to use these images on the text because they are representative of the game. Images of cricket are used because it's a cricket ticket that is being sold. If it was another sport, then images related to that sport would have been on the ticket. Keep safely, please retain stub. Again, this information is presented to us in bold capital letters. And why is it presented in bold capital letters? Because the author wants this information to stand out, or he wants this to have an impact on us. That is, it is important that we retain the stub safely. Please retain stub. And of course, we see our barcode on both sides of the ticket, the main ticket and the stub. For those of you who would have visited the supermarket with your parents, you know that barcodes are scanned, and when they are scanned, the cost of the item would come up on the computer. So if you have ever been to a cricket tournament or any tournament, or even at the movies, you know that your ticket is scanned, and when it's scanned, information comes up whether it's a valid ticket that has been paid for. So the purpose of having the barcodes on the ticket is simply that. So that when someone pays for the ticket, the barcode number is recorded and it can be scanned on the gate to ensure that the persons who have the ticket are valid holders of the tickets. So that's why the barcode is included in the ticket. So remember, we're looking closely and we're examining the elements of design used by the author. So let's have a look. Did I miss anything? Let's have a third look at the ticket. So we went through all the information there. We looked at what was presented in bold. We looked at what was highlighted. We looked at the images on both parts of the ticket. We looked at the barcode that is presented on the ticket as well. But we forgot the part of the ticket that is perforated, detached here. If you notice, the stub is smaller than the main ticket. What does that tell us? That the main ticket, the part with more information, is more important than the stub. So that's why the perforated section was not created along the middle of the ticket to give us both parts of the ticket being equal. So our perforated section was done in such a way to give us the main part with more information, having a bigger piece of the ticket, and the stub, which presents the summarized information on a smaller part of the ticket. So now that we've examined our ticket, remember we looked at the ticket 3 times. We looked at it, we read the information. We made sure that we could read all the words that were on the ticket. The second time, we looked at the ticket carefully. We examined it closely, and we looked at the elements of design, the use of images, the use of fonts, why certain words and phrases were used on the ticket. We looked at the use of images and the spacing of the images and the text in the graphic. And then we looked at third time to ensure that we had not forgotten or we had not overlooked any of the elements of design used in the creation of the graphic. So now, having done that, let's explore some questions based on this graphic. So we're going to begin with some literal questions. Our only literal objective for the graphic text is objective 31 that is contained in our assessment framework for S.E.A 2019 to 2023 found on the ministry's website and our SLMS. And that objective is to identify overt messages in selected media text based on elements of design. I'll read that objective again. And remember, it's the only literal objective that is found in our assessment framework for 2019 to 2023. Identify overt messages in selected media text based on elements of design. So let's look at some questions that would be generated based on this objective. Identify 2 guest players who will be present on the day. Identify 2 guest players who will be present on the day. Name 2 teams persons can expect to see on the day. Name 2 teams persons can expect to see on the day. Using details, complete the following: the date of the event and the time of the event. So these 3 questions are examples of questions based on our literal objective, objective 31 of our assessment framework. Remember, the questions that based on the literal objectives can be answered directly from the text. So the information is on the text. By looking at the graphic, you would be able to quite easily find your answers to these questions. So let's start with our first question. Identify 2 guest players who will be present on the day. So if we examine our ticket closely, and if you remember from when we examined our ticket earlier on the second time, we highlighted that the guest players on the day would be Mr. Brian Lara and Darren Ganga. The information is right there on the ticket. So we simply write these answers to this question on our answer sheet. So identify 2 guest players who will be present on the day. So by looking at the ticket, we can see that our first player who will be present on the day would be Mr. Brian Lara. Our second guest player would be Mr. Darren Ganga. So these are the answers to the question. Identify 2 guest players who will be present on the day. Again, the answer to this question is Brian Lara and Darren Ganga. Very good. I'm sure that you found this question quite easy. Let's have a look at our second question. Name 2 teams spectators will see on the day. If you recall, when we examined our graphic closely the second time around, we saw that certain information was highlighted using a border. Using a border is one way of highlighting information that is presented in the graphic text. So the information in the border stands out to us. If we look at the ticket closely, we will see that the information in the border is West Indies versus England. West Indies and England being 2 teams that participate in T20 cricket matches. So 2 teams that spectators can see on the day would be the West Indies and England. Again, the answer to the question, name 2 teams spectators will see on the day, is presented explicitly to us in the graphic, and the answer to this question is West Indies and England. Let's have a look at our third literal question. Remember, the answer to the literal questions are explicitly stated in the graphic. That is, you can find the answers to these questions by simply looking at the graphic and examining them closely. Let's have a look at our third question. Using details, complete the following: date of event, B, time of event. The event being referred to here is the T20 cricket match between the West Indies and England. So let's have a closer look at our graphic. If we look at the graphic, we see under the highlighted text, West Indies versus England, we have the date 5th June, start time 10 a.m. So we have found information required to answer our question. The date of the event is the 5th of June 2015. The start time is 10 a.m. If we continue looking though, or by simply looking at the ticket, you would see that another time is printed. Gates open at 8:30 a.m. This information is not the information that we are required to give in answer to question 3. Using details, complete the following: date of the event, time of the event. The question asks us to give information to tell what time the event, the T20 cricket match, would begin. The time here, gates open at 8:30 a.m. Tell us at what time in the day the gates to the venue would open and allow spectators into the stadium. Again, the time tells us what time the gates would be open to allow spectators into the stadium. This time is put here to see whether or not you could discriminate between the information that is relevant and irrelevant in the graphic. Sometimes you would be asked to do this to answer questions. You would be asked to discriminate between or among information that is presented in the graphic to answer questions. You would be required to assess the information and determine what is relevant and what is irrelevant. Here, the time, gates open at 8:30 a.m. is irrelevant. This is not the information that we are asked to recall to answer our third question. The answers to the third question, the date of the event, 5th June 2015, and the time it will begin is 10 a.m. So this is the answer to that question. Let's have a read at the question and the answers once again. Using details, complete the following. A, date of event. B, time of event. Our answers to this question we saw was the date, the 5th of June 2015, and the start time of the match would be 10 a.m. So far, we've looked at some literal questions. The answers to these were explicitly stated in the graphic. When we return from our break, we would continue with today's lessons. Stay tuned, we're going to be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with me. Remember, in today's lesson, we're analyzing a graphic text to answer questions based on them. So far, we've looked at some literal questions. Let's examine some inferential questions now. Remember, our inferential questions, the answers to these are not explicitly stated in the graphic. To answer them, we need to make connections between what we know and what we've read or what we've seen in the graphic to answer these questions. So let's have a look at some inferential questions. Objective that we are going to consider first would be objective 30. Identify implied messages in selected media text based on the elements of design. Again, our objective as contained in our assessment framework for 2019 to 2023 is identify implied messages in selected media text based on the elements of design. So with this objective, we are asked to identify messages that are implied or that are hidden in the text based on the elements of design used to create the text. A question would be, suggest why it would be necessary to retain the ticket stub. A question based on this objective would be, suggest why it would be necessary to retain the cricket stub. Let's examine this question carefully. Let's break it down into parts. Let's make a connection with what we've read and what we know. What is a stub? A stub, for those of you who would have visited the movie theater or who would have gone to a cricket match, or even at your school, if you would have had a movie or a barbecue or a curricue, you know that a stub is part of the ticket that you are given to keep. So a stub is part of a ticket that you are given to keep. What does the word retain mean? If you retain something from your vocabulary, synonyms you would know, retain means to keep. So vocabulary is tested in the graphic text. That's an important feature of the new exam. 2019-2023, our assessment framework no longer tests vocabulary in isolation. Vocabulary is tested as part of your comprehension as well as creative writing. So here we see your knowledge of vocabulary is being tested to answer questions based on the graphic text. Suggest why it would be necessary to retain the ticket stub. We know the stub is part of the ticket and retain is to keep. Why would we want to keep part of the ticket safely? Well, if you've ever gone to the movies or a cricket match, you know that sometimes if you need to leave where you're sitting to go to the bathroom or to purchase some other items, or even from your experiences at school, if you've had a magic show at school or a movie, you know that if you want to get out during the show, that you need to show your stub by the door when you're leaving so that persons by the door, the ushers, could identify that you are a bona fide person who had bought a ticket. And when you return, you need to present that stub as well, so that you'll be able to prove that you are someone who has bought a ticket and who has paid for admission, so that you'll be allowed to re-enter. So this is why it would be necessary to retain the stub in the cricket match as well. So you would have seen how we would have made our connections with what we would have experienced in school to what is presented in the graphic text. So our answer to the question suggests why it would be necessary to retain the stub would be, if you need to leave and re-enter the oval, you can show it as evidence you bought a ticket. Or an alternative answer would be, perhaps if there is evidence that persons entered the oval by some other means, let's say for example a hole in the fence, and the promoters of the match decided to check tickets to ensure that persons who are in the oval are valid ticket holders. Well, they will be able to do that, or you will be able to prove that you bought a ticket with your stub. So an alternative answer to this question suggests why it would be necessary to retain the stub would be, if someone is checking for persons who entered without paying, you can show it as evidence you bought a ticket. I'll read it again. If someone is checking for persons who entered without paying, you can show it as evidence you bought a ticket. In this case, both answers would be correct. Both answers would be valid answers. And you are only asked to give one. So remember, when you're giving your answers, only give the answers or the amount of answers to the question that you are asked to give. Do not give more than you are asked, and try not to give less than you are asked, because if you do, then you would not get full marks for the question. So let's have a read at this question again and the possible answers to this question. Suggest why it would be necessary to retain the ticket stub. Answers to this question could be, if you need to leave and re-enter the oval, you can show it as evidence you bought a ticket. Or if someone is checking for persons who entered without paying, you can show it as evidence you bought a ticket. I'm pretty sure that you found this question quite easy and very interesting. Let's have a look at another inferential question. And the objective that we are going to consider is objective 28. Comprehend messages in print text and visual media. Again, objective that we are considering is objective 28. Comprehend content or messages in print text and visual media. So let's break down this objective. Comprehend means to understand. So to answer questions based on this objective, you will be required to understand the messages that are presented to you, the reader or the viewer of the text, to come up with your answers to these types of questions. So an example of a question would be, what do the words refreshments inclusive on the VIP ticket mean? I'll read that again. What do the words refreshments inclusive on the VIP ticket mean? So let's have a look. Let's connect what we know with what we've read. So if we examine our ticket, we would see that the cost of the ticket is $500 for the VIP stand, refreshments inclusive. Again, I said that vocabulary is now tested as part of the comprehension. It's no longer tested in isolation. So your knowledge of vocabulary, use of synonyms, antonyms, homophones, using context clues to come up with your answers, all of these elements of vocabulary are very, very important. So if we look at the word refreshments, what are refreshments? Refreshments are things that we enjoy eating and drinking. So it would be things that persons could eat and enjoy on the day of the cricket match. Hot dogs, chips, doubles, corn soup, and soft drinks, of course. So what does the word refreshments inclusive mean? Making our connections with what we know that refreshments are things that we like to eat and drink. And inclusive comes from the word include. So inclusive means to be a part of. So we could deduce, or we could infer, that the phrase refreshments inclusive means that the cost of refreshments is included in the price of the ticket, $500. So our answer to this question, what does the words refreshments inclusive on the VIP ticket mean? It means that the cost of refreshments is included in the price of the VIP ticket. That is, when someone buys a ticket for $500, they pay for their refreshments on that day as well. So you don't need to line up and buy refreshments. You have already paid for that beforehand. An alternative answer would be you get free, and the word free is in quotation marks here because it's not totally free. You'll pay for it before. You get free refreshments on the day if you buy a VIP ticket. So when you buy a VIP ticket, you don't need to spend additional money on the day to purchase refreshments. So probably this might be another reason why you need to retain your stub. Remember a question from earlier? Why would someone need to retain the stub? Well, if someone wanted to collect their refreshments as part of the VIP package, they would present their stub. So that's another possible answer to a question from earlier on. Someone would present their stub to collect refreshments. So again, our answers to the questions, what do the words refreshments inclusive on the VIP ticket means? It means that the cost of refreshments is included in the price of a VIP ticket, or it could also mean that you get free refreshments on the day if you buy a VIP ticket. And of course, you'll get these refreshments by presenting your stub. Let's have a look at another inferential question. And this question deals with objective 32. This objective reads, recognize that different media forms use particular language styles and techniques in their construction. Again, let's read the objective. Recognize that different media forms use particular language styles and techniques in their construction. So from Standard 4, you would remember when you studied advertisements as part of your media and information literacy classes. As part of the ELA syllabus, you would know that advertisements use a particular language to persuade the reader or the person viewing the advertisement to purchase a product or goods or services that are being advertised. So this is where this objective comes from. Recognize that different media forms use particular language styles and techniques in their construction. And of course, the styles that we are referring to will be the persuasive style, to persuade the reader or the viewer to do something. So an example of this would be, give one reason why admit 1, 12 years and older is written in capital letters. So, what purpose does this serve? Why is admit 1, 12 years and older written in capital letters? Well, it's to persuade somebody to buy the ticket because it's for someone 12 years and older, or it could be to highlight to the person as well, or to draw their attention to the fact that someone who buys this ticket can only use it if they are 12 years or older. So we've made a connection. We've seen that admit 1, 12 years and older is written in larger font, darker colors, and capital letters. All done to highlight information to us or to persuade us that this ticket is really for someone who is 12 years or older. It's not for someone who is 10 years, not for someone who is 11 years. Someone who is buying this ticket needs to be at least 12 years or older. So what purpose does this serve? Why is this highlighted in bold, in a darker color, and in a larger font than some of the other writing on the ticket? Well, it simply screams, look at me. It wants to grab your attention. It wants to get your attention. So the reason why, or give one reason why admit 12 years and older is written in capital letters would be to highlight that only persons 12 years or older would be allowed to enter with the ticket. So someone who has the ticket to enter needs to be 12 years or older, and we are told this because it's bigger, it's bolder, and it's darker than the other letters. So again, our answer to the question, give one reason why admit 12 years and older is written in capital letter, is to highlight that only persons 12 years or older would be allowed to enter with the ticket. Excellent. I'm sure that you found answering those inferential questions quite easy because you were able to make your connections between things that you would know and that you would have experienced. Today we have been analyzing graphic text so far. So we've looked at some literal and inferential questions. We're going to continue now by taking a look at our evaluation appreciation questions. Remember, with these questions, you are asked to comment on the effectiveness of the elements of design used to create the graphic. Again, the elements of design would be colors, images, different font size, different sizes of fonts, as well as the spacing of text and images as presented in the graphic. And you also get to say what you like or don't like about the graphic. So you get to give your opinion about the effective use of images and text to create the graphic. So let's have a look at some evaluation appreciation question. We're going to look at objective 33. This objective says, analyze selected media text to understand how information or messages are presented to audiences. Again, analyze selected media text to understand how information or messages are presented to audiences. So we asked to analyze, so examine, another synonym for the word analyze. The audiences here would be you, or the person viewing the text. An example of a question for this objective would be, if you were creating this ticket, would you include a contact number? Give a reason for your answer. Again, I'll read that question. If you were creating this ticket, would you include a contact number? Give a reason for your answer. Let's consider this. Why would someone need a contact number? Why would someone need a number to call the box office regarding the T20 cricket match? Perhaps they would need to call for more information. So they would call to probably find out what types of refreshments. Are there going to be vegetarian and non-vegetarian refreshments? Is water included as part of the cost of the ticket, or only soft drinks or only water? So if someone wanted to find out this information, they would need to call the box office to find out. So if you were creating this, would you put in a contact number? Well, you could say yes. So persons can call for any additional information that they may require. So again, you are asked, if you were creating this ticket, would you include a contact number? Give a reason for your answer. And we could say yes. So persons can then call for any additional information. Or let's consider a question again, and let's have a look at the graphic. If we look at the graphic, we see that most of the information, or almost all the information, is there. We know the teams that are going to play, we know the date, the time, the venue, we know the time gates are going to open, we know some of the players who are going to be there, and we know the cost of the ticket, and that we're getting free refreshments. Someone looking at it might say, no, they don't need any additional information. All the information is already there. And that's a correct answer as well. So another answer to the question, if you're creating this ticket, would you include a contact number? Give a reason for your answer. Someone might say no, they would not include a contact number because all the information needed to attend the game is on the ticket, so there's no need to call. And that would be a valid answer. If you're creating this ticket, would you include a contact number? Give a reason for your answer. We saw that both yes and no were acceptable answers. Both yes and no were acceptable answers. They answered the question. But what made the question correct was that we were able to justify or give a reason to support why we said yes or why we said no. So it's very important whenever you are asked to give your opinion and you say yes or no, that you give a reason to justify or to support your answer. Your justification is what makes your answer correct. Again, note that both yes or no answers are correct, but you must be able to justify your answer to get full marks for this question. Let's have a look at another type of evaluation appreciation question. This would be objective 34. Evaluate techniques used in media text. So techniques are styles that were used by the author to create the text. So we are asked to evaluate or to judge whether or not they were appropriate or whether they were well used in the graphic. So let's have a look at our question. Our question reads, of the two cricket images presented in the graphic, which do you think is more effective? Give a reason for your answer. I'll read that again. I know that it was quite a mouthful to read. Let's take our time, read it slowly. Of the two cricket images presented in the graphic, which do you think is more effective? Give a reason for your answer. So let's look at our graphic. We see, or remember from earlier, we had two images. We had our first image with the wicket keeper, the batsman, and the stumps off, bat in midair, and we'll call this image 1. And across on the stub, we had a wicket, a bat, and a ball. We'll call this image 2. We also saw earlier that both images were related to the game of cricket. So, image 1 shows players playing the game of cricket. We have our wicket keeper, our batsman, and of course our batsman is out. And image 2 shows a bat, a ball, and a wicket. Both images are related to the game of cricket, but which do you think is more effective? Is it image 1 or is it image 2? Again, because we are asked to give our opinion, either one could be correct. Either image 1 or image 2. You could select any image, but you must be able to justify your answer. So, any answer will be correct once you are able to justify, to give a reason to support your response. And of course, that reason must be based on the text. So you can't give an answer that is outside of the text. You can't say image 1 is more effective because I saw the game of cricket being played in my school. That would not support the image that is used in the text. Your justification must be related to what is seen in the graphic itself. So let's take a look at some possible answers. Our question again, of the two cricket images presented in the graphic, which do you think is more effective? Give a reason for your answer. So we could say, I prefer image 1 because it reflects the tension between the batsman and the wicket keeper during the game. I'm sure that this would be something that you would have experienced playing cricket, whether it's in your school or even playing for your school team at zonal games, the tension that goes with the game. So you would say you prefer image 1 because it represents the tension that goes with the game. Or you could say that I prefer image 2 because the images of the bat, ball, and wicket accurately represent the game of cricket. And again, that would be correct because someone seeing the image alone, a bat, a ball, and a wicket, would know right away that those images are related to the game of cricket. Again, either answer is correct, but you must be able to justify or to give a reason to support your answer. So, I know that you've been paying attention for quite a while and your brain is probably a bit saturated. So let's take a break, stretch those legs, stretch those arms. We're going to be right back in a few moments. And when we do, we're going to continue with today's lesson, analyzing graphic text. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with me. So far today, we've been analyzing graphic text. we've seen the 3 levels of questions that we would be required to answer, or literal, inferential, and evaluation appreciation question. We've also looked at answering some questions based on a cricket ticket found in our ELA specimen items found in our ministry's website and our school learning management system. I hope that you have been paying attention so far, because we're going to take a look now at another type of graphic. So if you were paying attention earlier, you would have seen this graph on the screen. Do you remember? It was probably our third slide that you saw earlier today. It was a graph where I showed you the different types of graphic text. So we're going to answer some questions based on this graph now. Before we do, remember I said at the start of the lesson that for the graphic analysis there are only 5 questions. 2 literal questions, 2 inferential questions, and 1 evaluation appreciation questions, for a total of 10 marks. So let's have a look at these questions. What do you think is the main activity of the drama club? What do you think is the main activity of the drama club? What information is shown on the graph? What information is shown on the graph? Do you think the graph used is the best way to represent the data? Give a reason for your answer. Do you think the graph used is the best way to represent the data? Give a reason for your answer. Use details from the graph to complete the following. Information shown on the horizontal axis, information shown on the vertical axis. And our final question, or 5th question, why do you think there was an increase in the number of members over the years? Why do you think there was an increase in the number of members over the years? Before we begin to answer these questions, let's see if you have been paying attention from the start. Let's see if you are able to tell which of these questions is at which level. You remember the levels? A literal, inferential, and evaluation question. It's always good before you begin answering the question to determine where or which level the questions lie at. This would help you to find your answers. So you would know that if the questions are at the literal level, the answers are in the text. If the questions are at the inferential level, the answers are there, but they are not explicitly stated. So you need to make connections between what you know and what you're seeing to be able to answer them. And for the evaluation questions, you know that you need to evaluate something or give your opinion on something. Remember again, we're going to take a look at the questions, and the challenge is if you are able to identify which of the levels the questions are at, the literal, inferential, or evaluation appreciation. So let's take a second look at the questions. Let's read them again. What do you think is the main activity of the drama club? What information is shown on the graph? Do you think the graph used is the best way to represent the data? Give a reason for your answer. Use details from the graph to complete the following. Information shown on the horizontal axis, information shown on the vertical axis. And our final question is, why do you think there was an increase in the number of members over the years? So again, we're going to identify which level each of these questions was at. So let's see. What do you think is the main activity of the drama club? Let's examine our question. Here we are asked to give a reason why, or we are asked to express what we think. What do we think is the main activity of the drama club? So we are asked to come up with an answer based on what we're seeing there and what we know. So we are asked to infer something to come up with an answer. So this question would be an inferential question. I'm pretty sure that you got that one correct. Let's have a look at our second question. What information is shown on the graph? So the information shown on the graph, that will be stated on the graph, and because it's stated on the graph, I'm pretty sure that you're shouting literal right now, and yes, you're correct. This is a literal question. Our third question, do you think the graph used is the best way to represent the data? Give a reason for your answer. Do you think the graph used is the best way to represent the data? Give a reason for your answer. I'm sure you're smiling right now because by now you know that when you're asked to give your opinion, it's an evaluation appreciation question. Excellent. I'm sure you got all three correct so far. Let's have a look at our fourth question. Using details from the graph, complete the following. Information shown on horizontal axis, information shown on vertical axis. So its question says use details from the graph. Use details from the graph. We're using information that is there and you're getting it correct. I'm hearing the answers. It's a literal question. And our final question, why do you think there was an increase in the number of members over the years? Why do you think there was an increase in the number of members over the years? Again, you are asked to state why you think or what do you think about something. And if you are asked to do that, then you are asked to use your knowledge to come up with a reason why we're seeing something happening in the graphic. And if you're asked to do that, the only type of question missing now would be our inferential question. And I'm pretty sure you got that one correct as well. Excellent. So now that you have the hang of it, let us try and answer these questions. Let's take a look at the graph again. So we have our graph, the drama club. The graph shows the enrollment in the drama club over the years 2007 to 2011. And our first question that we want to answer would be, what do you think is the main activity of the drama club? What do you think is the main activity of the drama club? And remember, this was an example of an inferential question. What does drama involve? I'm pretty sure in your VAPA classes at school that you would have learned about drama. You would have learned about miming and mimicking. You would have learned about stage left and stage right. Right now I'm center stage. If I step off the camera, I would be off stage and you would lose focus on me. That's why I need to stand center stage. I'm sure you would have learned about all of these things in your drama class. So, by extension, we could say that in a drama club, members of the club would learn these things as well. So they would learn about drama. Drama also involves performances. So you would learn about plays and skits. So I'm pretty sure that you would have taken part in a play for Mother's Day or Father's Day or some other occasion or activity at your school where you had to meet with other members of your class or probably your school, your drama club at school, and rehearse for the play. So you would have learned about putting together a play or a skit. And why are clubs encouraged at schools? Well, clubs are encouraged for students to explore and enjoy new interests or activities. So we could use all of this information that we know and we could come up with an answer to the question, what do you think is the main activity of the drama club? And our answer would be, the main activity would be the involvement in drama rehearsals and production of skits. So the main activity. Of course, there'll be minor activities where you will learn about different techniques in drama, or you might have instances where you might need to get involved in costume making. But the question asks specifically for the main activity. This is where we need to discriminate as well. What's the main activity? The most important activity in the drama club. It's preparing skits and plays. So our answer to the question, what do you think is the main activity of the drama club would be, the main activity would be the involvement in drama rehearsals and production of skits. And this question is, what information is shown on the graph? And it's a literal question, so the information is there. From your mathematics, you would know that the title of the graph tells us what the graph is about or what information is presented on the graph. So by looking at the title, graph showing enrollment in the drama club, we can come up with the answer to this question, because this question is a literal question. The answer to the question is stated explicitly on the graphic. So our answer to the question, what information is shown on the graph, is the graph shows the enrollment in the drama club. The graph shows the enrollment in the drama club. Or you could have used a synonym for the word enrollment, or you could have said the graph shows the number of students in the drama club. That would be correct as well. But always try to use the information that is presented to answer your question. Let's have a look at our third question. Remember this question? It was our evaluation appreciation question. Do you think the graph used is the best way to represent the data? Give a reason for your answer. Again, do you think the graph used is the best way to represent the data? Give a reason for your answer. So let's think, let's examine our graph. How else could I have represented this data? So the information is presented to us using a line graph. A line graph being a type of graph that is used to present data, data being information that is or that has been collected. We could have presented our information as well using a tally chart, a pictograph, a bar graph, but can I use the information shown easily? Can I use the information shown in this graph easily? Is it easy to use? Can I get the information there? Let's take a look at the graph again. So we have the number of members shown. We have the year that the information was collected. We have a title. So the information is there quite easy. It's easy to use. We could get right away if I wanted to find out the number of students who enrolled in the drama club in 2008. By looking at it, I could see that in 2008 there were 19 members. Similarly, in 2011 we had 23 members. So the information there, the graph is quite easy to use. The information shown is summarized and it's easy to read. Another plausible answer would be, let's go back to our graphic. Let's have another look at it. When we look at the graphic, we see that the line between the years 2009 and 2010 is kind of skewed because it's mixed in with the grid lines. So it might be difficult to read. Some people might even find it confusing seeing grid lines together with the graph line. So they might be a bit confused and it might make it difficult for them to read. So another plausible answer would be, I think that the line, I can't see the line clearly in some places. It's hidden in the graph and this may confuse me. So our answer to the question, do you think the graph used is the best way to represent the data? Give a reason for your answer. Someone might say, yes, it summarizes and displays the information, making it quite easy to follow. Because that's their opinion. They ask for, do you think? Yes, the person thinks it's easy to use because it summarizes and displays the information. An alternative answer would be, someone could say, no, the information would be better represented using a bar graph. The bar graph here being easier in their opinion because they could read the answers off the bar. What information is shown on the horizontal axis? What information is shown on the vertical axis? We are asked to use details from the graph to complete this question. What information is shown on the horizontal axis? What information is shown on the vertical axis? So I'm pretty sure that, like me, some of you are confused still with using the words horizontal and vertical. An easy way that I remember it is this afternoon when I'm driving home, I'm driving past the Gulf of Paria, the sun will be setting on the horizon. So the horizon would be the line that moves from left to right, or the axis of the graph that is from left to right. So if the horizontal line is from left to right, then it means that the vertical line goes from up to down. So if you're confused about the words horizontal and vertical, that's an easy way to remember it. Horizontal, where the sun sets. Vertical, up to down. So our question, use details from the graph to complete the following. What information is shown on the horizontal axis? what information is shown on the vertical axis. Remember again, earlier we said that this was a literal question. So the information is there. So we can get the information straight from the graph. So let's complete our answer. So our answer to the first part of this question, what information is shown on the horizontal axis, would be the years of the drama club's existence. We are seeing this information there. The drama club existed in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, and 2011. So that's the information that is shown on the horizontal axis. On the vertical axis, our second part of the question, that axis shows the number of students in the drama club or the number of the drama club's members. So that's the answer to question 4. Let's have a read again at the question and the answers. Use details from the graph to complete the following. What information is shown on the horizontal axis? What information is shown on the vertical axis? Our answer, on the horizontal axis, the years of the drama club's existence is shown, and on our vertical axis, the number of the drama club's members, or the number of members in the drama club, is shown on the vertical axis. Let's have a look at our fifth and final question based on this graphic. Do you remember what type of question this was? Why do you think there was an increase in the number of members over the years? Pretty sure you remember that it was an inferential question. Here, we are asked to give or to make some connections with the facts that are presented in the graphic. Why would more children join a club? Are there clubs in your school, or are there persons who want to join your club? Why do they want to join the club? Because they want to learn about the activities that take place in the club, or perhaps you're getting ready for a grand competition that they want to be a part of, so they are all eager to be a part of this club. So another connection we can make would be, how can we get more children at the same school to join a club? How can we get more children at the same school to join the club? So let's connect all of these and come up with an answer to our question. So we see an increase in the number of members over the years. Students who might be interested in joining drama and acting would have joined the club. So perhaps the school did well in a competition in Sandfest, or you took part in a competition at the National Academy for the Performing Arts, or you were part of a team that represented your school in a drama competition. So more persons were interested in joining because they want to be a part of that experience. Or students would have joined to help them relieve stress. Being in school is pretty stressful. I'm sure you would agree with me with that one. So drama and the visual arts are a good way of relieving stress. Engaging in some sort of activity helps to relieve stress. So students would have decided, okay, well, being in school, being in S.E.A. Standard 5 is pretty stressful, and I want to have an avenue to help me de-stress, so I'm not burdened by all that I do. I'm pretty sure that some of you would have considered joining different clubs in your school, like the athletics, Red Cross, 4-H, Cub Scouts, Girl Guides. All of these clubs do activities that help you relieve stress. It's the same with the drama club. They would do activities to help reduce stress. So persons or students would want to join the club to help them to reduce their stress levels and have a good time. So I think you got it by now, and we're able to come up with an answer. Why do you think there was an increase in the number of members over the years? More students became interested in acting, so they joined the club. Or an alternative answer would be, more students joined since drama is enjoyable. So either answer again would be correct, because you are asked to give your opinion, and once you are able to justify your opinion, then you are able to get your question correct. Remember, the justification must come from what is presented on the graph as well. So let's recap all that we've learned today. I'm pretty sure that you found today's lesson quite informative and enjoyable, and you've seen how easy it is to get 10 marks in this section of the comprehension, the graphic analysis. Today, we looked at analyzing graphic text. We also explored two texts. We looked at a cricket ticket, and we looked at answering questions based on a line graph. A graphic text, if you remember, is produced using both images and words. A graphic text is produced using images and words. The graphic text can be found in section 2 of the English Language Arts paper. Analysis of the graphic text shows your understanding of the graphic, and it tells us how well you are able to answer questions based on it. There are 3 levels of comprehension that you will be tested on in this section. They will be literal, inferential, and evaluation appreciation. Literal questions, the answers to these are stated explicitly in the text. That is, by looking at the text, you are able to find the answers to these questions. Inferential questions, to answer these, you need to make connections between the text and what you know to be able to come up with an answer. And your evaluation appreciation questions, these give you the opportunity to write an answer based on your emotional response to the text, or you are asked to evaluate the techniques used by the author to create the text. Remember to answer only what is asked. Again, I'll stress on that. Answer only what is asked. Don't give additional information or don't give too little information. Answer exactly what you are asked to answer. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting your question wrong or not attaining full marks for your answer. Answer all parts if the question has parts. Very often, students answer one part and then they inadvertently forget another. So be sure to check through your section when you're completed working. Make sure that all the answers to all the questions are written in. If there are parts that you have answered, all the parts of the question. And remember to justify your answer based on what you see in the graphic text. Again, your justification must come from what you see in the graphic text. So, thank you for joining me for today's lesson. Remember, we looked at analyzing graphic text and answering questions based on graphic text. Be sure to visit our School Learning Management System, or SLMS, for today's lesson, as well as all the materials used, as well as additional material to help you get prepared as you study for your S.E.A. Be sure to follow us as well on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for official updates from the Ministry of Education. Remember, these are your sources for official updates from the Ministry of Education. Thank you again, and be sure to join us for another lesson here on S.E.A Time.